hands-on math.
In part 1, we discussed a couple relationships of trigonometric functions, namely the reciprocal relationships and the fact that you can find any trigonometric function if you know one of them. You can find any of the others. In this video, we'll talk about cofunctions. So cofunctions give us pairs of trigonometric functions, and let me talk about how those pairs come to be, and then we'll list them. So in a right triangle, there are two acute angles, x and y. And let me give names to the three corners, a, b, and c. To think about cofunctions, what I want to think about is these two acute angles. They're both acute angles in a right triangle, and both of them determine the shape of the triangle. Any triangle, the angles have to add up to 180 degrees, and so we know that x plus y have to add up to 90 degrees because the right angle takes another 90 degrees, right? So it takes half of that 180, and so the other two angles, they add up to equal 90. And so if I know one of them, then I have to know the other. Right, so both of these kind of determine the same, they create the same right triangle, both of those angle measures. This relationship, the fact that x plus y, angle x plus angle y add up to 90 degrees, these are called complementary angles. So complements are related, and they're related in part, they're related because they form the same right angle. So let's think about how this relates to the trigonometric ratios. So for angle x, if I wanted to take the sine of angle x, well, it's going to be the opposite side, the side opposite angle x, over the hypotenuse. Using the letters here, the opposite side, the side that's opposite angle x, is the side BC. The hypotenuse is the side AB. And so BC over AB, that ratio would be the sine ratio for sine x. Right? So to add numbers to our diagram, let's say this is 3 and 4 and 5. And so the sine ratio for x, the sine ratio of x, would be 3 over 5. Well, let's think about the angle y. For angle y, the side length 3, the side BC, is the adjacent side. So for y, I'll get this same ratio, BC over AB, I'll get this same ratio, 3 over 5, but not for the sine function. It'll happen with the adjacent side for y over the hypotenuse, which is cosine. So the cosine of y is that same 3 over 5 ratio. Well, I hope it doesn't come as a huge surprise here, but this is called cosine, and this is called sine. And these two make a cofunction pair. So sine and cosine are cofunctions. In our diagram, what we just said, sine of x equals 3/5, and that's the same as cosine of y. The other four trigonometric functions fall into pairs as well. Secant of x, well, secant is the reciprocal of cosine, but for x, the adjacent side is 4, and the hypotenuse is still 5, so we get 5, the hypotenuse, over the adjacent side. That's the same as the cosecant of y. Because for y, cosecant is the hypotenuse over the opposite side, and for y, 4 is on the opposite side. So within that same right triangle, we can see that secant of x is the same as cosecant of the opposite angle. tangent of x, well, tangent for x is the opposite is 3 over 4. That's the same as cotangent for y. And again, they aren't trying to hide these cofunction relationships. They aren't trying to hide the tangent and cotangent, secant and cosecant, sine and cosine are kind of shouting out, we are related. But what's a little bit complicated is that they're related with different angle measures. So more generally, we can think of the cofunction relationship in the following way. Using complementary angles, if I take sine of some angle, maybe sine of 55 degrees, that's going to be equal to cosine of 90 minus 55 degrees. That's going to be equal to cosine of 35. And more generally, and it's true for all these relationships, secant and cosecant, tangent and cotangent, but let me just write it down for sine and cosine. If I take sine of theta, that's going to equal cosine of 90 degrees minus theta. Or if we take cosine of theta, it would equal sine of 90 degrees minus theta. So let me end the video with a question, kind of putting together a few things from what we've seen. Suppose you're given cosine of some angle theta. Cosine of theta equals 0.965. Try to use what we've seen in the video here and what you know about trigonometry to find cotangent of 90 degrees minus theta. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.